We only get your presents a couple times a year, partner, so it's nice.
Yeah.
By the way, cowboy boots again today?
What, are you tracking my outfits now?
Well, I saw you yesterday, and I like the cowboy boots.
They're not really. They're like ankle-high things.
Oh, okay.
And I'm on a limited wardrobe because I'm on a long road trip. So
you are?
You're lucky you didn't get the same shirt.
Seattle, Los Angeles. He's St. Louis-based. This is Joy Taylor.
Hi, Joy.
Oh,
hello.
Hi. So you've done all these games through all the years, World Series.
Do I get to talk about the Dak Prescott garbage you just spewed?
Hey, let's slow down on that, Mr. Lead Announcer. We'll get to
go
that.
ahead.
So you've done all these magnificent games, and then you get a Jets-Browns game, and you're probably thinking, boy, I'm going to have to make something out of this. And it ended up being fascinating, and I couldn't turn the television. And it was one of the games you did, and I was sitting there. You guys were funny, you and Troy, and I'm thinking, they're having fun. This is really a live TV event.
Yeah, I'm glad you noticed that because I really think that we are actually having a lot of fun. And maybe that's kind of a function of how many games we're doing or what's in the offing with what's coming our way with these kind of double dip weeks. But yeah. I think there's room to have some fun. And I think the most important part of my job, along with getting names and numbers right, is to bring personality out of Troy. And I think the more I can show what I see from Troy in the meeting room and at dinner and at the hotel, I think we're all better off, but I think that he's better served because he's got a great sense of humor. He's
and by the way,
relaxed. It's good.
It's a quarterback league now, so all of a sudden you get a glimpse of Baker and Troy. Now Troy did the NFL draft for us, so Troy's very well schooled now in all these young quarterbacks. Five new guys. So what were your impressions? What were Troy's impressions of Baker Mayfield?
You know, when we had them in the preseason and they brought both quarterbacks in together, so there really wasn't a whole lot of one-on-one time with Baker Mayfield for Troy. I know he thinks a lot of him. To Troy, his number one pick would have been Darnold, but there was always this wild card, Mayfield, because he was a walk-on at OU. He was one of those guys that just kind of always fought his way to the top of the pile. And now here he is as the number one overall pick, and I know you're not fully on the bandwagon.
He did some college nonsense I don't like, grabbing your stuff, and I'm not into that junk.
Yeah, no, I know. But I mean, as far as arm strength, leadership, I didn't know he had the arm strength.
It's better than I thought.
I did not see a ton of Oklahoma football games. But when he came in and showed what he can do, fitting the ball in, having some life, I mean, the entire game and the feel in that stadium changed. And he delivered a win, pure and simple. He won that game.
You know, I want to shift to Jon Gruden. And one of the criticisms I said of Jon Gruden, I know Jon, I like him. I thought he was a terrific broadcaster. There's very few people that talk and pop. And Jon would do that quarterback camp on Monday Night Football. Yeah. And Jon talks, and he has that staccato kind of delivery. And he talks in 8-second sound bites, and he's got the face, and he talks. And it's like he's doing a little stand-up and a little football analyst work. But I said, there's some industries, you can leave the post office for 10 years, come back, you're all good. But if you leave football in Silicon Valley, they change hourly. And you're watching Gruden, you know the TV business. It's a lonely existence. You fly into a town, you go to your hotel room, you go to the stadium, you have a lead producer. That's Jon's existence for 10 years. Now he walks into a politically engaged NFL, players have more power, and he's got to talk and take care of this guy and that guy. And I kind of feel like he's struggling. He's still a TV star, and he's owning these press conferences, and he won't stop talking, and he keeps stepping in it. And TV is a different business, Joe.
No, you're right. And it's one thing that bothered Troy when he first got out because there is no scoreboard. That's what bothered Troy. Like, you don't walk out of the booth and somebody goes, well, you won today. You guys are 2-0. Good luck in keeping the streak alive next week. There's no scoreboard. Nobody cares.
Right.
Barely. You can do a Super Bowl and some executive will go, yeah, good job, and then they'll just move on. That's about all you get. Right. So that is something that is the good and the bad of being a broadcaster. I think Jon's life was probably pretty darn good. The whole fired football coaches of America thing and watching film and going and doing the game and then getting out and living his life. Now there is a scoreboard. Now you are answering for a 53-man roster and an owner and a franchise that's about to move and a passionate fan base. And you had a guy like Khalil Mack who's, one of the top talents, forget defensive players, top athletes in the NFL, and you just shipped him away, and then you can't generate a pass rush, and you say finding good pass rushers is hard to do. Well, you just had him.
Yeah.
So there's a lot there that I'm sure he's remembering and probably going, you know what? Working at ESPN and doing Monday Night Football wasn't so bad.
It's not.
And, the money was good. The money was good at ESPN, too, for him.
Yeah.
And now he's got all these other things pulling at him. He's got a lot of work ahead of him.
So when the Rams left from St. Louis to Los Angeles, if I recall, you were hot.
Yeah.
You were not happy with Stan Kroenke. You were hot because you're a St. Louis guy. And you love the Midwest. You still love the Midwest. Your kids are there. It's awesome. And then, glamorous hip L.A. comes in and is like, and we bring the dishes out here. But now you kind of look at the Rams and you look at McVay and you look at their money and they're really exciting. And you're doing the game tomorrow against the Vikings. It's the best game of the weekend. I got to be honest with you. It feels like the league's better with the Rams in L.A. than St. Louis.
Well, okay, and I got to be honest with you. The version of the Rams that we had in St. Louis didn't have Sean McVay, didn't have Jared Goff, didn't have good draft picks, that team was terrible. And so my frustration was that the sports fan in St. Louis for the second time had the football team taken away, and the perception is because they don't support the NFL, which is ludicrous. You saw it at the PGA Championship. People will come out of the woodwork when you at least meet them halfway and say, we're trying as an organization. They were building toward a move at the last 3 or 4 years. They knew where they were headed. I don't begrudge Stan Kroenke for coming out here when you saw the value of the franchise went through the roof. It was bottom 5, now it's top 5.
Yeah.
And for good reason. But this is a good, young, exciting team.
Oh,
if
yeah.
you pick this team up and put it back in St. Louis, you think they're having a tough time selling tickets and filling a stadium? No, they're not. I promise you that. Because when they were the greatest show on turf, that was easily the toughest ticket I ever had to try to get for friends and family back in St. Louis. That place was packed. So it's a little bit different. It's apples to oranges when you compare what the Rams are now to what they were when they left.
I like your love for St. Louis. I'm very fond of that.
Well, I thought it was bad for the city. To me, I want to see St. Louis prosper. I want to see downtown grow. When you take an NFL franchise out and they had plans for a new stadium and now all that's just scrapped, I think it's bad for the city. And I thought the St. Louis sports fan or football fan was not accurately represented in that whole transaction.
So are you
But I'm glad, on the other hand, let me put on the other hat, the Fox hat. The Rams being great in L.A.
is big.
Is great for everything.
Yes.
And so that's a different conversation. I'm just glad they're good, and they are. And I think they're easily the best team in the NFC. You could make the argument with what they have on defense when healthy, they're the best team clearly in the NFL.
So, it's interesting. Do you know Aaron Rodgers because you've done a million of his games?
Yeah.
And I would think he would like you. You guys are smart and you're culturally, kind of
hip.
You're
very hip.
You're very, very
hip
with it.
Yeah.
He hates me, and I'm okay with that because I think he got little rabbit ears. He's Kevin Durant a little bit. He's not married, doesn't have a bunch of kids. So, unlike Brady, who watches game film and hangs out with his kids, the Kevin Durant, the Aaron Rodgers, you go home and you got an extra hour, you're on, the little bird.
Yeah.
And but here's my thing: is this a fair criticism of Aaron Rodgers? Is that he can be, forget the family stuff. I've heard teammates take shots, this and that. He's a little California cool. He's a little improvisational. Sometimes Brady's more coachable. And that Aaron, there's a reason quarterbacks don't get to as many Super Bowls. Sometimes Aaron could be a little more coachable, slightly less hip, a little less ad-libby, and that some of Aaron's lack of success postseason's on Aaron. Or do I sound like a jerk?
No, I don't think you sound like a jerk, but I think you can't celebrate him for what he does out of the pocket and what he does when plays break down and then say that he's too ad-libby or say that he should be more coachable. I think without him, that team is average at best.
Oh, godlike, yeah.
And I don't think it all comes down to the quarterback. I heard what you said about Dak Prescott.
You were very mad at that. You were hot at that, too.
Oh, so hot. I was just fuming over there.
What bothered you about that?
Because you cannot. It is absolutely simplistic at best to look at a team's fortunes and just go right to the quarterback and put it all on the quarterback. The comparison that they had on CBS to Brock Osweiler, let me know when Brock Osweiler went 13-3. Let me know which Dak Prescott did. Let me know when Brock Osweiler had a team that really circled as a rookie, as a fourth-round pick. This guy was phenomenal. Now they don't have an outside threat. They don't have a tight end. Patrick Mahomes has Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Those are pretty good players.
Well, it's Sammy Watkins, and he's got everything.
Okay, and he's got an offensive line. He's only been sacked 4 times. Dak Prescott, since every time he drops back, has got hands in his face, people all over him. They can't really run the ball. I know Zeke had a good game Sunday in Seattle, but it was a quiet, good game. He's not had the kind of room he's typically had.
So you like Dak.
I think Dak is everything you'd want in a quarterback. He's tough. He's smart. People on his team love him. Offense, defense.
What's Troy think? Does Troy
loves him? Absolutely loves him. Loves the guy. Thinks the guy is as solid as the day is long.
So guys like me who says he's got a little bit of a low ceiling. Alex Smith.
I think everybody's got a low ceiling with an average offensive line and average at best receivers, no tight end. I think everybody looks pretty low ceiling in that category.
I saw you in the hallway yesterday. You made me sad. I drove home thinking about you.
Uh-oh.
Because Joe Buck travels the world, 5 Super Bowls. There's very few people, I'm not going to embarrass you. I would just say in my generation of sportscasters, I hold Joe to the highest regard of anybody. Very few people I get nervous around. I'm sweating right now talking to Joe Buck. But the point is, you told me something yesterday that kind of freaked me out.
I can't wait to hear where this goes.
Okay, so you told me, I said, you were up in my hometown, Seattle. And I said, did you go to Pike Place Market? Did you go to the first Starbucks? And he's like, no, I just sat in my room. And I said, Seattle in September, you stayed in your room.
Yeah.
That you didn't go out. And so,
no. I went to...
This is what Joe Buck does in Seattle. He sits in his room.
That's good.
Is that what you do?
What kind of an art department are you hiding
You
here?
were in Seattle in September.
And why do you have cameras in my room, more importantly? Thank God. This must have been about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Thank God.
Troy Aikman is on Twitter and Instagram taking beautiful pictures of the sunset. He's enjoying the emeralds.
Oh, he pays people to go do that for
really?
him. He sits in his room, too. I want to go to my room. I want to turn the thermostat to 67. I want to get under my covers and read. I will go work out. I did go to Flywheel in Seattle.
All right.
But I don't care. I don't care about in this great restaurant with this unbelievable pate that I had in Seattle. Or I'm going to go on sightseeing and throw fish and go to the first Starbucks. I couldn't care less. It pisses my wife off to no end.
Really?
She's a restaurant person and a foodie and wine
she's this
lover.
Stunning, beautiful, smart woman that wants to see the world. And here's you in the room.
And there's me. But I'm not wearing cowboy boots, so that's got to make you happy. That's pretty much me. I have a lot of work to do. I have reading. I have to show up on Thursday, tomorrow, and act like I've watched every minute of every game of the Vikings and the Rams when they kick off. That requires a lot of reading.
Yeah, you just summed up my career. I've got to pretend like I watch this stuff. It's a lot of work.
I feel your pain. I mean, you got the NBA. I don't even touch that. That's in a bin that I don't visit.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.